So good day and welcome to another episode of Cuppa with a Jesuit. I'm Father Robin Koning here in Melbourne.
And with Father Robin, I'm Jesuit student Julian Butler, and we're joined today from Rome by Father David Holdcroft. Father David, g'day.
Good morning, buongiorno, and tassa di te.
Father David, you're in Rome working with JRS. Would you tell us about JRS and also what your role with JRS is?
So JRS is an acronym, obviously. It means Jesuit Refugee Service. It has a mission to serve, accompany and advocate for and with refugees. My area is getting refugees into work. We have been educating refugees and training teachers and things like that. And my job is the difficulty is they get to the end of their schooling and there's nothing. 90% of refugees in many of the areas where we work do not get through secondary. Many don't even get through primary school. And so the program that I'm designing is designed to be flexible, to be able to take those people and put them through vocational education to give them a skill, or for higher levels of basic education, to put those people into professional education where they're not trained to be a teacher, or to train to do online digital work. And then we actually help them find a job after that. So that, and grow the economies in these refugee areas, because most of refugees don't get anywhere near the Western world. They stay where they are. And that's an enormous burden on very poor countries. So if these refugees are contributing to the economy, as well as using their gifts and actually, leading hopefully a more meaningful life, then we think this is a good result.
Could you tell us some of those communities that you're working with?
So at present, we're piloting the approach that I've created in 3 places: in Dzaleka camp in Malawi, in Kakuma camp and Nairobi in Kenya, and in Amman urban area in Jordan. We hope to roll out to about 20 or 30 countries eventually.
Italy's been very hard hit by the pandemic, so you're confined to quarters there. Can you say a bit about what the restrictions have been and how that's affected your work?
It's been an extraordinary time. We weren't allowed out of the house without the Superior's express permission, because it would endanger Father General, but also the central administration of the Jesuits. So we're being extra careful and extra cautious. It's been a very rich time. I mean, I think you have seen others, and certainly myself, go through times of fear and anxiety. And I really thought, will this be it? For a few nights. And you ask God, have I done what you asked me to do? Is it, how have I lived my life? And you could see others doing that. We were asked to try and initiate divertimenti, the sort of like recreation together. And so I gave a concert of piano music. Other people gave musical concerts. And we also had a tour of the caves in the garden. There's a whole network of caves in the hill behind us, where people used to live, and where we think even somebody like the Emperor Caligula may have sought refuge there at one stage. We have been praying very, very much, of course, and it's been a very rich time, sobering time in many ways.
Father David, I wonder, what was it that led you to seek to join the Jesuits? What attracted you to the society?
So I went to a Jesuit school, so I knew the Jesuits. I'd have to say that was a mixed experience. My family, I had a difficult family situation at home, but what it led to was a bit of a network of friends and other families and Jesuits themselves. Now, my secondary school actually was very good, and it was a real growth time for me. But I got to the end, and really what I wanted to do was work with poor people. I found it very difficult to have, to articulate any vision for my life, or, I had no idea really. Through Jesuit contacts, I was led to work with homeless people. And that for me was a life-changing experience. I talk about it as my conversion, which seems a bit strange because these people were not very religious. I will say that quite. All of them, I think, had done significant jail for significant crimes. Some of them more petty, but some certainly serious crimes. But I think I first learnt to laugh there. I first learnt to really express anger, and in a sense, I think they helped me take my faith, which was kind of up here, and put it down in my guts, in my heart, and there was a sense that that it was a work of mercy. In the Latinate languages, mercy is misericordia, which means quite literally a heart for or with the poor. And I think that had been my experience of God, mediated through many, many people. And I found in working with homeless people that this was a way that I could kind of express that. And that didn't directly lead to the Jesuits. I talked with Mother Teresa's order, who had brothers at that time, but no priests. I dialogued with them for quite some time. I actually approached the Jesuits during this time and got knocked back. And I was told that I wasn't suitable. And I sort of took that at face value. But then after quite some period, I realised that I'd been told that, but I hadn't really received that in my heart. And so I approached the Jesuits again, and they said, no, we'll look at you. Now, the Jesuits really were the only mail order in my experience in Australia, and I emphasise in my experience, that were working with poor people, or that seemed open to working with poor people. And what I liked about the Jesuits as I got to know them a bit more was that they seemed to be able to embrace what I call the wide church. We had Irish teachers at our school, Irish Jesuit teachers, who many people would say were eccentric, but there was a sort of an integrity to their mission, if you like. We had other people that were obviously, I don't know how to say, they're very different personalities. Some were very passionate, some were very, rational and dispassionate. And then as I got to know the Jesuits, the sense of the discernment is really important. And there was a lot of pressure in my family to marry because I'm the only son of the family. And I found that a very difficult. My sister didn't talk to me for 10 years when I was discerning this. That was prior to the Jesuits. I realised that if I was to move into something like the Jesuits or whatever, at that stage I wasn't sure whether I would see my family again or speak to them again. Another thing that attracted me about the Jesuits, which I haven't mentioned, was it is a universal body of people that are everywhere and have all sorts of different cultures. So it was a kind of a long story, in some ways a complicated story, but that was what attracted me. I mean, I'd hope that most people could arrive at decisions before I did, but anyway.
Obviously, our Jesuit commitment to a faith that does justice is very important to you. Could you share with us what motivates you in that work, particularly how it connects with or flows from your relationship with Jesus and with your priesthood?
Poverty is an ugly reality, and it's wrong. It's evil. what I like is trying to help people find Jesus in their understanding, or find God in their understanding. Many of the people we work with are Muslim, and to reassure them that God is with them even in these awful situations. And for me, that also brings me to a greater sense of who I am, which is that classic, a sinner who has been saved, or who is being saved, I would say. And when you come up against situations where you literally don't know what to do, COVID-19 has been an example of that, but many refugee situations are like that. The refugees say we have only God to rely on. One of the photos that I sent you has me in an emergency situation. They were literally walking across the border of Mozambique into Malawi as we were there. And we went down, there was about 10,000 of them. It was chaos. There weren't even tents. These people were building their own huts they were just ripping down trees and making their own shelters. They were trying to find food. And as we were walking around, I said, look, I'm a priest. Would you like a blessing? Because this is the point where their future is completely unknown and they are the most vulnerable. And all of a sudden I had 50 people around me and we said a little prayer together. And that for me, now I was a manager, I was an administrator at that time, but that for me was where the priesthood just gives a complete other dimension to this.
Father David, that you've spoken to us there about the road that you're on. I wonder what you'd say to any young men in our contemporary context, considering going on that road and considering Jesuit life.
Somewhere I think you have a sort of an inkling of a vision for your life, a sort of a movement, a little voice in there. I don't know quite how to describe it. And I would say to that person, sort of a desire, I think would be a good word for it. And that's accompanied by, a hazy view of what's ahead, but a sort of a sense of possibility. And I would say to any young person, when you have those moments, take them seriously. Everybody will tell you not to, or that they're not important, or that there's a lot else out there that's more important. But I would say take it seriously. I think my family invented the word political correctness long before it came into the lexicon. Being Christian meant behaving well and following a set of rules. Meanwhile, I was in more and more huge turmoil inside because I knew that wasn't me. Yes, I could perform, but I was going crazy inside. And actually, when I think I first felt these kind of, this vision, it seemed crazy. And in my family's sort of view, it was almost unchristian. It was the opposite of what we were kind of being educated was a good Christian. It was that outside the box. But over time, that was the thing that really led me, and it's gradually taken over. I would encourage anybody considering any vocation to religious life or marriage life to persevere, that God is good and God is in that process. I would also say to somebody, and this may sound a bit crazy, but I would say go to Mass as often as possible, because Mass, you don't have to concentrate, you don't have to be a good Catholic, you don't have to sort of have your hands like this. You don't even have to know the responses, if you're in another language context. At Mass, there's something about what's done at Mass that creates space, even when your head's full of noise, full of all sorts of things. And I would encourage people to do that. So that's what I would say to people.
Thank you. That's great, David. Thank you very much. We'll finish off in a moment, but I realise you are there in Rome and living with Father General. And Father General, in a way, he belongs to the whole society, of course, and he wouldn't have much to do in this time of COVID. What do you think your chances of getting him to have a cuppa with us one day? Do you think that's a possibility, or?
I wouldn't prefix it by saying you don't have a lot to do, Father General. So time for us. I think Father General would be very open to it. I'd be interested to hear his answers.
Excellent. Well, David, thank you very much for your time, and cheers to you.
Okay, thank you.